Good morning, everybody. A warm welcome to this week of devotions. I am in the Fernkloof Nature Reserve this week, a lovely place to come and be quiet and still in the presence of God and in this gift of creation that He has given to us. We've been having fun trying to film these devotions. We set up the camera, we're about to roll when suddenly the heavens opened. We packed up, came under cover, waited a few minutes, went out after a while, set up the camera, lo and behold, exactly the same happened. So we've compromised. I'm sort of half under cover here, and I see now the rain has just begun behind me. I have been reading the story of Daniel, and what a wonderful story it is. It's an inspiring story of courage in the midst of adversity, disappointment, and probably personal trauma. Daniel was a very fine young man growing up in Jerusalem, and in 597 there was this catastrophe when Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, invaded Israel and flattened Jerusalem. That's 597 BC. That's some 400 years before Jesus was born. Jerusalem was destroyed, the beautiful temple was destroyed, and Daniel, along with his compatriots, was taken off to Babylon. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, remember those guys? Those were not their Jewish names, but they're in Babylon. They were recognized as being particularly talented youngsters. And Nebuchadnezzar had hoped that he could bring the creme de la creme of the Jewish society with him in Babylon, and that they could form a new civil service, as it were, in Babylon. Be that as it may, there were many attempts to try and make these guys Babylonian in their thinking. They were given a specific diet of food, their names were changed, and despite the temptation to compromise everything that they had known about how you live and how you behave and how you believe, these guys were determined to remain true, because they understood themselves as first and foremost belonging to the people of God. And it's inspiring to see how these guys refused to compromise. And it's an important question for all of us to ask in a society that is becoming less and less Christian. Who are we? Are we going to retain our identity as Christian men and women, or are we going to slowly compromise, almost imperceptibly, and in the end there's very little difference between us and the way that others and the world thinks? It's a challenge. Who am I first and foremost? Do you remember back in 2002 the tragic story of that American journalist Daniel Pearl, who went off to Pakistan to investigate some of the goings on there and the things being done by Al-Qaeda. And no sooner had arrived in Karachi than he disappeared. Nobody knew where he was. People feared the worst, and after a while they found Daniel Pearl's body in the boot of a motor vehicle. He had been murdered. And then, to add insult to the tragedy, to the injury, a video was posted by those radical Islamists in which it showed the last moments of Daniel Pearl's life. There was a gun held up to his head, and he was surrounded by these radical elements. And his last words were these: "My father is Jewish. My mother is Jewish. I am Jewish." And with that, they slit Daniel Pearl's throat. It was an appalling atrocity and causing huge offense and anger around the world. And not long after that, a book was published in the Jewish community entitled, I Am Jewish. And many writers reflected on what it meant to them to be Jewish. And I so enjoyed reading that book, I Am Jewish. So there's Daniel saying, I'm a child of God. And he makes a very conscious decision that he is not going to compromise his beliefs and his ways of living, despite the seductions of Babylon. I am a Christian, you might say. So what does that mean practically in our lives? Is there anything distinctive in the way that you and I live, such that people say, that is a Christian man, that is a Christian woman? Daniel resolved. Let's resolve again. Let's make a conscious decision, friends, to be very specifically Christian in our thinking, in our ways of living, that there can be no doubt whatsoever that we belong to the Lord Jesus Christ, that his life is at work in and through us. That is the most effective form of Christian witness in this world. God be with you.